What up, people? So before I start, I just want to say this. Yes, I am a witch. And I know some people, for some, that word might immediately bring up fear, judgment, religion, social conditioning, and all of that shit. But before society tells you what that means, let me tell you what it means to me. To me, being a witch means being deeply connected to spirit. It means honoring our energy. It means listening to our intuition. It means reconnecting to our ancestors by nature, healing, rituals, embodiments, and the parts of ourselves that the world tried to hella make hard or make us feel ashamed of. There comes a point in our healing journey where you realize that you no longer are living in only survival mode. Conditioning, trauma, the domestication that we've learned while growing up, or living in the fear and burnout and performance to perform or put on this mask for other people. You begin the journey of fucking awakening. And that is where I am. For me, that awakening looked like reclaiming spirituality outside of the shame. I started questioning everything that I knew, like from the systems, the beliefs, the social constructs, the narratives that taught me to distrust my own intuition. Where we do that at? Why? To fear my sensitivity, to silence my inner knowing that I just know shit, right? And to disconnect from nature, spirit, ritual, and ancestral wisdom. But as a Black woman, that shit hit hella differently because in so many African spiritual practices, ancestral healing, intuition, herbal healing, energy work, divination, connection to spirit, all of that shit was demonized through colonization and Western religion. So I wanted to disrupt the social constructs that I knew. And I wanted to connect more deeply to my people, indigenous people, Black people, women, nature, sensuality, intuition, and healing, because society claimed that it was evil, but I knew something deeper. Women who healed with herbs were feared back in the day. Women who understood energy and intuition were silenced. And women who listened to spirit instead of systems were called crazy, dark magic, black magic, voodoo, irrational, and hella dangerous. But honestly, the more I healed, the more I realized that so much of that fear was never about evil, it was about power. Because once people remember who the fuck they are spiritually, they become harder to control. And I wanted to become the GOAT of it. As I started reconnecting with my ancestors and African spirituality, something inside me woke the fuck up. Not in a performative way, not because it was trendy, not because my spirit was craving, but because my spirit was craving that remembrance, right? It was craving what I knew all along, but needed to become acquainted with again, right? And I became deeply drawn to Yoruban spiritual practices and ancestral wisdom. For so long, African spiritual systems were stripped away, mocked, demonized even, and disconnected from us through survival, slavery, colonization, and religion. But our ancestors understood something that modern society forgot. They understood that healing is really spiritual, that nature is sacred, that energy, that shit matters, and that intuition is really wisdom, that the body keeps the score and spirit is connected to the body and body is connected to earth. It's all interconnected. And honestly, our ancestors were hella conscious, even more than we are today. They understood rhythm, they understood dance, they understood energy, dreams, the power of rest, the moon cycles, herbs, community, healing, movement, spirit. They paid attention to all the signs and the synchronicities to nature, the seen and unseen. And I think modern society has become deeply disconnected from the sacredness of simply being. The Orishas, the gods, the goddesses in Yoruba spirituality are not just myths to me. That shit hits so hard. They represent energy and balance, archetypes, lessons, nature, and above all, they represent fucking alignment, right? Oshun teaches us that softness, sensuality, the beauty, the creativity and pleasure, and abundance of divine feminine energy. And Yemoja represents nurturing, motherhood, intuition, that emotional depth within the crevice of our aura, and the fucking ocean itself. And Oya, Oya is transformation. I feel like I'm in Oya right now, heavy. Destruction before rebirth, and storms, change, shadow work, becoming. All of those things are a part of those Yoruban traditions. And Shango, he represents the fire, honey. You put Shango on somebody with truth, courage, leadership, power, and masculine energy, and that is fucking alignment. These teachings reminded me that spirituality is not really about fear. It's about healing from the inside out. It's about remembering our connection to source and the generations that came before us, honey. I've been calling on my ancestors heavy. And nature became my teacher. The moon teaches us about cycles. The seasons taught me to release and rebirth. The oceans taught me to surrender. Trees taught me about grounding and just fucking walking in nature and being nature. And fire taught me that transformation is critical, it's pivotal to growth. And the sun taught me how to expand. And silence taught me how to finally hear my damn self, right? Because like the earth, we move through phases too. There are seasons where we bloom, seasons where we grieve, seasons where we shed identities that no longer serve us purpose. Seasons where parts of us really have to die so the new versions of ourselves can emerge. And we are not meant to stay in the same place forever. And Hilly made me realize that life isn't just one lifetime. There are hella small deaths and rebirths happening inside of us constantly. As we moved from that 3D consciousness to 5D consciousness, from fear into more awareness and actualizations, from ego into alignment, from survival into really living intentionally, we disconnect and we really start to embody. And we really start to be more present. The 3D world teaches us constantly produce, complete, perform, seek validation, chase titles, chase productivity. But what the fuck if we don't want to do that anymore? Awakening asks us different questions, like, who are we when the masks fall away? Who does your spirit actually need? What does your spirit actually need for food? What patterns were inherited? What wounds are never ours to carry, but yet and still we stay carrying them? What cycles are asking us to be broken? And what agreements did your soul make before arriving here? And I believe soul contracts are deeply connected to that journey. Some people come into our lives to awaken us. Some come to shake shit up. Some mirror our wounds. Some teach us boundaries. Some teach us about grief. Some teach us unconditional love. And some come into our lives to remind us of our fucking power. Not every painful experience has come to destroy you, people. Some experience came to evolve you. And as a Black woman, reconnecting with ancestral wisdom, my intuition, the embodiment of me, rituals, spiritual practices, I've learned that my healing is bigger than me. It is generational. It's cosmic, it is sacred, and I'm healing generational curses or generational traumas so that my seeds can grow and develop into their own. And sometimes that is a sacrifice that we have to make in order to do something anew. Sometimes those black sheeps of the family are not really black sheeps at all. They are people who refuse to stand in the status quo. They are cultural disruptors. And every time I choose softness over survival, truth over performance, rest over burnout, intuition over fear, I honor not only myself, but I'm honoring the ancestors who dreamed of my freedom before I even got here. The more I leaned into intuition, meditation, and ancestral connection, prayer, ritual, energy, and embodiment, that's the more I healed. I healed shame, I healed the fear. And I also healed survival mode. I healed parts of myself that constantly felt like I needed to shrink to survive. So I realized my body is not separate from my spirit. My emotions are not weakness. It's remembrance. I pray with candles. I speak to my ancestors. I call on my ancestors. I trust the synchronicities that I see. I meditate. I protect that energy. And I listen when the spirit nudges me. Because that inner voice, that shit is not random. That spirit is speaking. That is your intuition awakening. That is your aura, your chi, your energy reconnecting to creator. So with that being said, I encourage you to stop doubting yourself, stop shrinking your intuition, stop silencing your inner knowing, stop asking the world for permission to trust yourself, stop abandoning yourself just because society taught you to fear your own power. Meditate, be still, listen, because maybe the reason you came to this earth is not to survive. Maybe the reason you came to this earth is to remember who the fuck you are, not just physically, but spiritually, to remember your gifts, our purpose, our connection to source, our connection to nature, our connection to the ancestors who dreamed of our freedom before we even got here. We all have a purpose. We all have a reason for being on this earth. And whatever reconnecting looks like for you, I encourage you to explore it. Get back to your roots, get back to your spirit, get back to yourself, because healing is not always becoming someone new. Sometimes healing is remembering who the fuck you were before the world told you who to be. And maybe the real awakening is realizing we were never separate from source in the first place. Maybe the real magic was within us all along. Sending you all love, light, and peace. I hope that this resonated for you. And if it did, I'm curious to hear about your own journeys to spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening is something that is on a continuum that continues to happen, right? Sometimes the pendulum swings left and sometimes it swings right. Sometimes we have the inner knowing and sometimes we feel lost. That is okay. But I encourage you to do the work. Though it's hard, it is necessary and needed. Sending you all love, light, and peace into your day. God bless.